Welcome into another episode of the Terp Talk podcast. We got a packed show today. Joe LaBue, Chief Revenue Officer of Maryland Athletics and Terp alum, joins Jordan and I on the show. Then we get over to Wayne Viner, who got the chance to tour the new basketball practice facility. And we wrap it up with a preview of the Terps and Washington with the Huskies coming to CQ Stadium on Saturday. Great show heading your way. Now let's get to it. Jordan, back here on the pod, Tuesday night recording. Got a packed show tonight.
Yes, we do, Mason. Our first ever episode, I believe, with two guests on it. So that's exciting for us. Super excited to have Joe LaBue on the show. We taped the episode, or rather the interview with him earlier today, Mason, and I think it might be the best one we've done yet. Wayne got to tour the basketball facility today, which is super exciting. I saw some of the photos earlier he took. It looks phenomenal. And then we're talking football with him, Mason. But before that, as always, presenting sponsor.
This podcast is presented by VinerX. VinerX is Maryland made. VinerX, founded in Rockville more than 30 years ago, and like you, VinerX has grown up supporting the Terps. VinerX believes in teamwork, preparation, and showing up every day. Values that make winning teams great, and values that drive VinerX to support their clients. VinerX is focused on helping your business win, succeed with enterprise technology, human first. VinerX, we make your company work. Now, let's get to our interview with Joe LaBue. Now we welcome Joe LaBue onto the podcast. Joe, let's start it off. You're back home at Maryland. What does it mean to you? What's it like to be back in College Park?
Hey, Jordan, Mason, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk Maryland. It's one of my favorite topics, obviously. I think, being back, it's still a little bit surreal. I think we're coming up on about 2 months right now. We're just, the family's getting settled, and I think being back on campus is just, a lot of a range of emotions still pulling in the parking lot, driving down Campus Drive, and a lot of emotions come back to me day in and day out. I love this place, just like so many, and it's afforded me a lot of opportunities in my life, and now having the chance to come back here and impact it is really special. So, even when Jim and I were talking about the potential of me coming back here, one of the things that resonated with me was being on a college campus. He said, just being on a college campus, remember how energetic and energizing it is. And he's 100% right. You just feel it from the moment you get on campus, and there's some energy and vibes here that you really can't explain unless you're here.
So obviously you attended Maryland. How different is it being a professional on campus versus being a student? I mean, it's a world difference, obviously, but what's that been like for you so far?
Yeah, it's again, it's a little bit strange. I just I'm not gonna lie. I pull in, and I hope I'm not late to class when I pull in. I remember freshman year, I lived in Easton Hall, and I remember my first final was on the mall. And I have one of these stories that I woke up late, and I had to sprint across campus, and it was like Indiana Jones. I was diving into the door before they locked it. So I think I still have a little PTSD from that as a student, but no, it's great. I mean, it's still the same. I mean, you love being here. You want to get the most out of your day. It's such a beautiful campus. You couldn't ask for a better place to be and spend your time. And I think for me, I carry that weight of being an alum and being here. I know how important this role is for a lot of reasons. I mean, there's something a little bit different about it. So I love it. The good news is too, and interesting, my email address and my student ID are still the same number. So my email is like my full name. Everybody knows my middle name's Charles now because my email pops up as my full name, and they're like, well, this was your student email. So that is pretty cool.
So take us inside the role in the day-to-day of it. You're the Chief Revenue Officer for Maryland Athletics. What does that mean in 2025? And then what's like a normal day look like for Joe LaBue?
Well, we haven't really found a normal yet, so I can't really answer that one. This role in college athletics is different at every stop you make. I think athletic departments are trying to figure out what that CR role does. It's a bit of a hybrid between a CRO, a COO, and a CMO. I mean, there's so much to tackle and so much to do. I think with college athletics, there's been there's been a need to have outside entities help out, whether it's ticketing, your multimedia rights, the collectives and NIL now. So with this role, it's coming in and understanding these relationships, learning the history, and then trying to find a path forward. You're sort of that conduit back to the university. You want to make sure there's alignment across the board. So I think my day right now is trying to understand what that alignment looks like. How do we look, sound, and feel the same? How do we have the same priorities across the board? I'll give you an example is we've got our football home opener on Saturday, our Big Ten conference opener against Washington. Everybody knows the priorities filling that stadium. Whether you're the MMR partner, you're working for One Maryland, you're working for Legends, who's our ticketing partner, campus dining, DOTS, all the entities we work with, and then everybody internally in the athletic department. We all know what the priority is, and it's filling up that stadium on Saturday and then showing up on Sunday for the volleyball match at Xfinity Center. And so really my role is making sure that, again, those priorities are clear, but working, because you have entities that they have different reporting structures, and maybe they would have prioritized some things differently in the past, and kind of working through that right now, which is really exciting. So it's a lot of listening and then sort of picking and choosing where we can maybe make some early gains and have some early wins and celebrate those together.
Well, you kind of touched on it there, but I always find it interesting as someone who worked in college athletics, working across campus, trying to loop in housing, dining, all these different entities on campus that drive student attendance. How has that worked so far? Because student attendance this year has just been phenomenal.
The student attendance has been amazing. I think there was a narrative going around that it wasn't. I mean, I again, as alum and someone who was out of state, I would watch games and sort of see, but you can't really tell. And then you would hear from people that maybe it's just, it's just not the same. I can tell you that was false and overblown, or if it was in the past, it's certainly not like that through this season, whether it's football, soccer, field hockey, any of the events that I've been to, the student support has been amazing. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. And the more we can engage and the more we can listen to them, I think that's something that I talked about priorities. That is a huge priority for us. Understanding how we can amplify that, how we can grow that student support this year, because it's been so great. What else can we do? You've heard Jim talk about fan experience quite a bit through his first few months here. And I think it starts with the students. There's something really special about being on campus. There's something that's unique about coming to a college athletic event. It's the student section. It's the band. It's unique and fun and part of the pageantry and part of wanting to come win, lose, or draw. So I would love to understand how we can unlock even a better experience for our students and get more support around campus. Because again, it's great, but there's certainly more that we can get out of it, and it's reciprocal. It's not us telling them what they want. We need to listen and understand what's going to get them to come. How do they engage more in our Olympic sports? This is not just about football and men's and women's basketball. It's about everything, and it's about that 365-day a year, relationship with our athletic department. So I'm excited to go on that journey. I'm excited to talk to people. I've had I've had a chance to meet a few students that have reached out and wanted to grab a cup of coffee, and I've done that. And it's been, those have been probably the best meetings I've had since I've been here, honestly.
So taking that and then zoom us out to the 10,000-foot view. What is kind of the long-term strategy, or what parts of the long-term strategy can you share with us on here? And then what are some of like just the short term, like I got to get this right now to keep things rolling in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think the long-term strategy, you've heard Jim say it. I mean, we want to be best in class. We play in what we feel like is the best conference in college athletics, and there's no reason we can't be at the top in every metric in that conference. I think that is a bit aspirational, but as I've told people, when I was here as a student, I mean, we were at the top of the mountain. We were winning national championships in several sports. We had a full football stadium. We obviously cut down the nets in Atlanta for the 2002 men's national championship. Now, that was a year after I graduated, but I was at Bentley's for that game. So, I know what this university can be nationally, and I think for us, that 10,000-foot view is delivering the success that Maryland deserves, and being that flagship university that the state deserves, and making this place a destination for fans, for events, a destination for, this is a place that people want to come and learn and get an education. This is a place that people are proud to call their school, whether they're an alum or they grew up in the state. There needs to be that affinity and that love for this university. It's got to be ingrained in everyone's DNA. And that athletics, and you've heard Dr. Pine say it and others, were the front porch to the university. And we really need to own that in several different ways. So all of our work sort of starts with that perspective, and just everything cascades from there.
So you talk about everything cascading. The other, I guess, the pessimistic view might be everything cascades from winning.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as winning and fans contributing, a big thing has been NIL the last 4-5 years.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also just radically changed again with the House settlement. Can you kind of explain to the average fan the difference between rev share and NIL, and kind of how fans can still get involved?
Oh yeah, 100%. The easiest way to explain it is, we've opted in to the rev share strategy. $20.5 million can be utilized. Our revenues can go back into players' hands. Essentially, we have a salary cap. It's up to us to decide how we want to utilize that 20.5 million. That and different schools are gonna evaluate and handle that differently. And that revenue comes from tickets and partnerships and concessions, all the traditional avenues that drive revenue at institutions. NIL is additive and sits on top of that. So your name, image, and likeness, these are opportunities where our student athletes have to engage with companies to market products, market events, really work hand in hand, side by side with corporate entities, and make additional dollars on top of what they're getting from rev share. From a fan's perspective, there's a number of ways to engage, and it all, the beauty of college sports, it's all going back to the university in some way, shape, or form, whether it's going to the athlete, or it's going to fund scholarships, or it's going back to facilities, which will enhance game day experience. You can buy tickets. If you're part of a company, you can utilize Maryland as a platform to help elevate your company in a number of different ways. Your traditional radio ads, signage, cool marketing opportunities, enter to wins, things of that nature. You can also get involved with NIL through supporting One Maryland. So One Maryland is our NIL arm, and that entity exists to essentially bridge our athletes with corporate America. So they work side by side to identify great opportunities for athletes across all of our sports. So fans can get involved, they can become a One Maryland member. If they own a company, if they're in HR, if they're in marketing and they've got ideas, and they want to utilize our student athletes, there's opportunity to do that through NIL and through normal sort of MMR if they want Maryland rights. So if you want to use a student athlete, but you want to make sure the student athlete can wear, a Terps logo, that would be a deal where we would get both of those entities together, to create a deal for somebody. So, and you can also support through Terrapin Club, the more traditional fundraising groups of Kirby and his team do such an excellent job there. So all of these engines are firing, and there's really a one size fits all model for every Maryland fan, supporter, alum to be involved. And again, the beauty of it, it's all going to the right place. It's all going to support this athletic department and help us achieve those long-term goals that, we talked about a few minutes ago.
So, Joe, kind of circling back to one of the things that you mentioned there, which is just buying tickets. To the average fan now, everybody hears about these massive TV deals, the media rights deals, all that stuff. Why is it still so important outside of the fan experience and game day to really get fans into CQ Stadium or Xfinity Center or any of the venues?
Yeah, I mean, it's important. I mean, really at the foundational level is let's support these student athletes. Let's support our school. The best way to do it is to show up, in anything you're doing, if you're a parent or a friend and they're, if your child's in a, plays the violin and has a concert, of course you're going to be there. You're going to support them by being there. And I think that same philosophy, same perspective can be said about college athletics. And, that's a high tides raises all boat type thing too. When you see a full stadium, there's a lot of ancillary impact there. Certainly there's the revenue component that will help to go right back in the facilities. It'll go right back in the athletic department. You mentioned it, you want to win. People want to come. These student athletes want to play in front of a full stadium. Coaches want to coach in front of a full stadium. The feeling you get when you walk into a full Xfinity Center or CQ Stadium is undeniable. There's something so special about it. And, for everyone that wants Maryland to win, and everyone that's excited when we win and disappointed when we lose, I tell you, the best thing you can do is show up on game day. And it's an incumbent upon us to provide that game day experience, win or lose, and create that value. But at the same time, I challenge our fans and our alum and our supporters to show up, and it makes a difference. They talk about the 12th man. They talk about the rowdiness of college basketball. It makes a difference. And just look at our record at home this fall.
Yep.
Look at that combined record of our fall sports. It matters. Showing up matters. So, we're 21, 2-1, I believe.
That is insane. I did see that stat get pushed on social. But hand in hand with that, there's this big push to fill up the stadium for Washington.
Yeah.
This upcoming game. Talk a little bit about that, kind of weighing maximizing revenue versus maximizing attendance.
It's a great question, Jordan. I think you can do both. It's a little bit of chicken and egg. I mean, we want to get people in here. Same time, you want to keep the integrity and value of tickets as well for people that have supported through thick and thin. So there's a little bit of art and science with ticketing, and right now we do want to make sure there's no barrier, no obstacle keeping people from coming in here. So, we've got affordable tickets, and we have, I think, done a good job the last week or two of really amplifying and stepping up where we're showing up, and we can do better, and we will. We want to make sure that everywhere you go, you see Maryland, and Maryland's going to be relevant, whether that's engagement through social media, it's engagement, driving down the highway and seeing a billboard, or you're listening to radio, or you're seeing the support from local media talking about this team being 4-0 and having a real opportunity to do something big this year with back-to-back home games coming up. So, we're not going to be afraid to let people know that our goal is to fill up that stadium on Saturday. We've got about 5,000 tickets to sell. To me, that's doable. We're in a market of 9 million, almost 10 million people. We have such a supportive and phenomenal alumni base here. We need, in essence, 2,500 people to decide to show up. Buy 2 tickets. We can do that. It's Tuesday morning right now. We can do that by Saturday. And the secret sauce is getting them to come back, guys, and you know that. So we're working on game day. We know some of the challenges. We've identified those. I've heard the term "we can't boil the ocean." I get that, but there's some early wins. I think our pregame offering in Jones Hill House with Terpsville, it's been a huge success early on. I'm excited for people to see that on Saturday. What we're doing in game, in stadium, we've taken a look at some of our concessions. We've dropped some prices there. We'll have an item of the game. We have a kid-friendly concession stand behind section 212 that, chicken tenders, hot dogs, a number of things under $5. So these are all some early wins. We want people to be there on Saturday, and, the revenue will come, and the revenue is important. We're not going to shy away from that. We need this. We need the support. It isn't, I'm not here because it's not important. I'm here because it is important. That's why I'm sitting here and talking to you guys today. But getting people in here and getting them engaged is the number one priority right now. So again, if you go and look, and if someone feels like there's a barrier and a reason they can't attend, I would love to know, and I would be happy to find a solution for them, because we are going to be solutions oriented, very solutions oriented. That's when we come to work every day. When you go to sleep at night, you're thinking about it. So,
Joe, I love that answer, just from like the strategy, the corporate strategy mindset of it. And also, I think what many of Maryland fans have said about filling the stadium. You just said, I need 2,500 people basically to decide that they want to come out there and support the Terps on Saturday. Take us through one of the things that I find really excellent that you guys have been able to do over the past week, which is engage with the alumni and kind of get them like a ticket link and a graphic to post. How'd that all come together, and how's the delivery of that worked out so far?
Yeah, we mobilized right after the Wisconsin win, and knew we had a lot of momentum, and it would be irresponsible for us to not take advantage of this momentum. And we just had a think tank, honestly, and wanted to do some things that maybe we've done in the past, or try some new things. And the group thought that utilizing our great fans, our great alumni, people with reach. How are people engaging right now? I mentioned the traditional ways, which we've got to utilize local media, both in Baltimore and DC, all throughout the state of Maryland. But people are on the phones now. They're scrolling through social, and you got to create some FOMO. And when you've got people talking about how amazing it's going to be out here on Saturday, that's one piece of it. And the second piece of it is, okay, well, what's in it for me? What's the call to action? I'm seeing this. How do I not scroll past it? How do I click on it? And that's where we came up with the special offers and the ticket links. And I can't thank everyone enough for doing that and pushing it. And there's a huge back end piece of it that I don't think a lot of people that haven't worked in sports understand that goes into it. You've got, our ticketing team needs to create these links. They need to hold inventory, be really careful about it, because you're going to want to buy seats and sit next to your friends. So we're sort of taking tickets offline, putting them in these links. So there's a bit of again, an art and science to that. Our graphics team, that's a team that's working 24/7, 365. I mean, that's a tough job. And no one really gets in this line of business and they're like, I'm excited to make ticketing graphics. But it's a necessary part of the job, and have fun with it. So creating the graphics and the turnaround time with that, getting the copyright on social, Jason Young and his team, a lot of what they've done on the back end. Again, it's really great to see the people that we have here, the energy that is in this athletic department. And this is something that I so badly want to celebrate with everybody on Saturday. It's been fun, and we'll continue these think tank sessions. And part of what we do is proactive, and everybody always wants to be proactive, and you talk about that, and there's sort of this, there's this narrative or sort of characteristic that people feel is so optimistic about being proactive. I'll tell you what, being reactive is just as important in our world. And this is something that we were a little proactive, but we took that excitement on, in Madison, coming off that game right away. And there's a bunch of people on a chat talking about it. And that's a great way to be reactive. And, you've got to be able to be a bit of a chameleon. So we'll see on Saturday. I'm looking forward to a full stadium. I have a good feeling.
All right, Joe. Well, we thank you for taking the time. Anything else you want to say to Terp Nation before we wrap it up?
Just appreciate everybody's support. And, we talked about it earlier, whether you live in the DMV or you live across the country, there's a way to help. There's a way to participate. There's a way to see the results that you want to see, and we all want to see them. So I encourage everyone to participate in some way, shape, or form. Please get in touch with me if you're trying to figure out what the best way that is. You can look me up on LinkedIn. And I implore people to come back, though, even if you are out of state. Homecoming's November 1st. That's a good day to come on back and support the Terps, and appreciate everything you guys do too. I mean, everything matters. The time and energy you guys put into this is really helpful and not lost on us. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate the time.
All right, guys. You have a great day.
See you Saturday. Well.
See you. Go Terps.
Go Terps. And that was Joe LaBue. Jordan, you could hear the passion, I feel like, through the interview of just how much Joe's driven to make Maryland great and to bring back kind of the winning ways of not necessarily the teams on the field, but the corporate structure that really makes an athletic department give the experiences to fans that they strive to every day.
Yeah, you did. And I'll be honest, folks, I was not totally sure what we were going to get with Joe LaBue. And nothing against him, but we've interviewed administrators before, at least I have, and you never know what people are going to say. You don't know how they're going to handle being in the spotlight, but you really did feel the passion, the energy he has for the Terps in that interview. And it was great to see. It really was. Something that we didn't talk about with him as much, but he brought up, was when he went to Maryland. He graduated in 2001. Next year they won the Natty. That year they won the Orange, or they didn't win, but they got the Orange Bowl, won the ACC. And that era of Maryland athletics is really what made a lot of, let's say, the modern fans fall in love with the Terps, and we got to see that with him. And, I was encouraged by everything he said, and it really felt genuine. Thank you to him for taking the time. Thank you for Jason Young to set that up. Overall, just a great interview, I really thought.
And I feel like them taking the time to, and I don't want to kind of talk down on what we do here at Terp Talk, but taking the time to sit down with us, not on the radio. We've been able to get David Evans on the radio and Kevin Anderson, and basically anybody that you want will come on for a radio spot, but to come here on the podcast, kind of dive into it, give us that look at what the plan is. And what I heard from, the rest of my life and all the great things I get to do with our presenting sponsor, VinerX, and VinerX's clients, is I really liked when we asked them kind of what the short term is and what the long term picture is. They weren't defined on it, and coming in and where they're at a month, 2 months, 3 months into it, depending on kind of how this administration's rolled out, is the focus on the quick wins, the focus on getting butts in seats and showing them why they should come back. And it wasn't just from Joe, like, we need to get the marketing, get people in the stadium, and then they'll just come back. It was, let's get them in the stadium, let's show them what a first-class college sports experience is, and then we don't have to worry about them coming back. They're just going to do it. And when you talk about a recurring revenue model in any way, in any business, that's kind of your mindset. If your experience is great, if the service you deliver is great, doesn't really matter what you do. People seek those opportunities out. They seek those games out. And it's really seemed like from a business standpoint, and Jim Smith's impressive in his own right, and we're working to get him on the show. But there is, the mindset is there that this isn't a one and out thing. It's not about the road fans coming in. It's about college sports fans and sports fans in this area enjoying being Maryland Terrapins, which there's so many. And, he dropped some of those numbers in as well. Excellent job.
Yeah, one thing I did want to say there, Mason, is, it's paying off. The Terps, and, I said in the interview, and he agreed, it just started with winning, and Maryland football is doing that right now. All Maryland sports are, which is, as someone who's on the admin side, we're guilty of this too. Don't want to just say football is winning. It's all sports are winning, and that matters. But football is winning right now, and clearly it's working because there's only 5,000 tickets left for the Washington game. Again, he said it a lot. I'm not going to steal his thunder, but please come out and support the Terps this weekend if you can. We'll get to that later, Mason. But first, speaking of those non-revs, plenty of action to catch up on.
Yep, and we'll start it off as we always do, out on the pitch, women's soccer. Terps drop a pair of games out in LA, falling to USC and UCLA, but they'll get the chance to rebound this Sunday with Illinois at Ludwig.
Yep, bit of a rough stretch there after a good start to the season for the Terps, but you know what? The women's soccer program's still in a great year. Hopefully they get back in the win column. Field hockey, unfortunately, dropped in the poll to 11 after being ranked number 10 last week. They defeated Michigan, number 12, 1-0, and they fell to number 8 Princeton at home, 2-1. They'll get the chance also to right the ship, though, as they travel to Ohio State Friday at 3 o'clock on BTN. So if anybody doesn't has free Friday afternoon, BTN's your spot. And they will travel to Michigan State on Sunday at noon.
Yeah, coming back to Xfinity, the Terps volleyball continues to struggle. They drop it 2 matches to Iowa and number 1 ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers to open up Big Ten play. They will head to Rutgers. Should be a winnable game Friday at 7. Then they'll face number 16 Penn State Sunday at 4 at the main floor at Xfinity live on the Big Ten Network.
Yep, those main floor games for Maryland volleyball are a big deal. I know Sunday's tough for a lot of sports fans, but if you can, head out to Xfinity, support the volleyball team.
Yeah, I don't get it. I feel like the Pavilion is a feared place to play. I would want to play there every time, but, got to sell more tickets.
Hey, Penn State volleyball's a draw, whether we want to admit it or not.
And then finally, wrapping it back up where we started, right back on the soccer pitch. The Terps beat Northwestern 4-1 Friday at home at Ludwig. They will play UCLA on the road Friday night at 8 o'clock, also on Big Ten Network. So a couple of Terps games on BTN on Friday.
Yes, and I saw this after we did the outline for the show, Mason, but the Terps up to number 18 in the poll after being 23 last week.
Yeah, Jordan, now let's take a look around the Big Ten. Lots of great games. Packed weekend. Your boy was knocking down some action on DraftKings through the Big Ten.
Jason, I know we talked about this earlier in the week. I know you don't agree with me, but that was one of the most entertaining days of college football I can ever recall seeing.
Yeah, I thought the noon window was a little bit disappointing. The Minnesota Rutgers game was a good one. Georgia Tech Wake also as well. Jordan, let's start off with the big one. Oregon beats Penn State in Happy Valley in the whiteout in double overtime. And I don't know about you, but I definitely jumped up off the couch when they got that interception and sealed the deal.
I'm not going to say all that, but it was a great college football game. It really was. I'm not going to say as a big Penn State hater as much as a lot of other people are, but I don't like Penn State at all. But they do really pack it in for those whiteout games. It's a great environment to play in, and there is an argument to be made it's the best in college football. I'm not going to say I personally agree with it, but I see the point. Great atmosphere, great game. Yeah, I was very excited to see the way it ended. Penn State still cannot, they've had big wins, but that was like a crown jewel win if they could get it. Oregon, Dan Lanning, great program right now, good coach, just couldn't seal the deal. But great game.
You know what I really enjoy about Dan Lanning is his insanity. Like how he embraces, like you can see, like just like how happy he is to send people home disappointed. And just, not only that, like not necessarily in a negative way, but also just in like how he takes the moment in, and you can just see it. Like you can see it when they interview him, you can see it before the game. Like he's excited to be there and just be in that position to have the opportunity to compete in that game. And I feel like it shows in the way they play. I'm not a big Oregon fan, but like you can see it from the way Dante Moore plays. That is his name, right?
Yes, that is his name.
And just he's so prepared as a quarterback, and you can see it in the way that he's changing the play. I mean, that's one of the toughest, if not the toughest, environment in college football, and he's running the line of scrimmage. A lot of similarities I see with him to the way Malik Washington takes ownership of being the quarterback and being the leader on the field. And you look at it like Sadiq, he gets hurt, the backup tight end's out there making plays. They got an extra offensive lineman out there playing tight end. Like I felt like the scheme from the Ducks was really good. Dan Lanning, though, I did feel like maybe he was a little early to kind of celebrate that when they went up 17-3 and they sort of lost focus a bit there. But overall, impressive stuff from the Ducks. And Penn State, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like you can't find a way to win that game. Whether I like them or hate them, it's bad. There's certainly something that's just missing there that they just don't have. They just don't have it to finish games. This one it was different. The 17-3 was kind of like that. People are heading for the exits. Just another disappointing night. Another time where they're going to be 10-2 or 11-1, but know that they're not going to, compete for a championship or that kind of mindset that's set in there. But they found a different way to lose this one. They come back. They make the extra play. Drew Aller throws the touchdown pass, bounces back from being there. But in the end, I heard a interview with a Penn State fan after the game, and it's the same old that it's been this year. And it almost felt like you could listen to them and, replace some of these Maryland teams with it. They don't play full 4 quarters. They just don't do it. Yet again, they weren't there in the first half. They come storming back in the second half, but it's just not enough. That's been the case all year. And look, everybody wants to throw these patsy games out the window, just like they like to throw the NFL preseason out the window. But there's a reason why it's there. It does matter the way you play in those moments. It might not affect you come January when probably both of these teams are in the college football playoff, but right now it stings.
Yeah, it does. And for all the regular season doesn't matter stuff in college football, you could not tell me that game did not mean the world to those Penn State fans. So still not a Penn State fan, but you got to feel for them to some extent. Another Big Ten action, Mason, another really entertaining game at the very least. Ohio State, Washington. I know Washington didn't necessarily hang the entire way, but they were in that game 3 quarters through.
Yeah, I don't really like the quarterback play from Ohio State. And it turned the corner, I felt like, in this from saying, but Washington was frustrating. The fake field goal was frustrating. I just don't understand it at that point. I'm a big fan when you have your home field advantage, especially, and you can almost point to the same things when you're on the road. You take points in a game against an offense that struggled against lesser opponents and similar opponents, and you kind of have to take advantage of those moments. Look, they couldn't run the ball. Jonah Coleman's one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the conference. I feel like we're going to see a lot of that on Saturday at CQ. And then Ohio State, look, they have lockdown corners. They have just a team full of 5-star guys, and in the end, it seemed like the talent just showed through. Good effort from Washington. All I saw was I was focused on how we can beat them and some of the injuries that came out for the Huskies. If those guys are not available, will change the trajectory of the season for Washington and in not the best way.
But very entertaining game, great production, and again, Husky Stadium, maybe the best college football venue in the country. Mason, a game you and Wayne were really locked in on, Indiana, Iowa, and Peacock.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa's in the same bucket as Penn State for me at this point. How many times can you lose the same game? There's a game a couple years ago, and I doubt that many people that are listening to the show will remember this. I think Iowa was playing Minnesota, and Cooper DeJean returned a punt for a touchdown, and there was an absolutely bogus call on it. It was with like 4 seconds left in the game. They managed to lose after that. And I felt like I was watching that again. I mean, Hank Brown was a starting quarterback in the SEC. Now, he wasn't very good, but he had it. Like they had the drive at the end of the game, but you're missing guys high, you're missing them left and right. And look, it just shows how fortunate we are to be in the quarterback position that we've been. And I'll even say that to last year with Billy, the years prior with Talia. Like you see a program that's so solid in every facet of the game. They compete time and time again unless a team is superiorly better than them. But it just doesn't, they just can't put it together. You know, the slant late, you're going to give up 20 points to an Indiana team that's really good. The ability to stop the run, give the offense every chance it took to win the game, but unable to cash in. But hey, Iowa plus 8.5.
Mason, you were talking down the noon window, but you missed a barn burn. Illinois USC was a frantic game.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Altmaier, way to bounce back. Illinois, way to bounce back. USC, more of the same. I mean, I feel like we go down this list and you see so much parity. Hopefully, come Saturday, we don't see the parity in College Park that would align with the rest of the conference last week. It looks like the Maryland game from last year for USC, in my opinion. Every opportunity to win, kind of turn the corner, get things really going the right direction. Couldn't close the door. Classic Lincoln Riley. Hey, Lincoln Riley, you still can't get used to having real competition every week. Welcome to the Big Ten, buddy. It's real every single week. And your guys just, they aren't there. But you could see USC, unlike UCLA, and I kind of feel unlike Washington, USC's got the resources and they're bought into getting to a Big Ten level in terms of the lines on both sides and the defense specifically. I don't feel like we see that much. But Oregon and USC definitely have the pieces of it. Jordan, quickly moving through the last game, Minnesota and Rutgers. Rutgers, this is just pain all the way around 2 weeks in a row now. And
yeah, that was
I
a tough
would be
one for Rutgers.
very, very hesitant to think that the wheels are going to come back on the Rutgers bus, because it felt like a lot like Maryland did a couple years back when they went to, the home loss to Illinois, the road loss that followed that to, I think, Northwestern. And look, that was after Maryland had, I believe, fought all the way to like 6-1 or 5-1 at one point in that season. I might getting my years a little bit mixed around, but for Rutgers, all this, Tyler McManus, they got the passing game, they got all the stuff, and then they come out and it's pure domination, but they could not finish when they had a chance to get up 20 points early. You let a Minnesota team hang around, and credit where it's due. I'm not a row the boat fan, but the mentality was strong. Things did not look good early. They bounced back. They got the win. They looked like the team that lost to Cal for a while there, but they found a way to turn the corner, and that one was big for 6 wins for either of those teams, and Minnesota gets it done. Quickly, Jordan, looking at the slate from this week, what sticks out to you?
Speed round right here. Michigan, Wisconsin. Look, I have it on there just because Michigan, Wisconsin, but Michigan's going to house Wisconsin, in my opinion, Mason. Illinois, Purdue, though, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit high in this game. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm not a Purdue believer right now. It's kind of miserable out there in West Lafayette.
All right. Michigan State, Nebraska.
Look, this I don't know what the numbers are, Jordan. The over in this game is looking very appealing to me. The amount of passing yards, I wouldn't be surprised 800 plus passing yards combined in this game.
All right, and to close it out, I think I left one off here that I just wasn't interested in. Actually, a couple. There's some non-conferences this week. Ohio State and Minnesota. Ohio State's going to win this game by 20 points.
Yeah, Minnesota, I mean, the brand is consistent at this point. I feel like they've raised the floor, but they haven't found the ceiling, or they found the ceiling maybe a couple of years back when they had that, massive offensive line of Mo Ibrahim running the ball behind it. Ohio State, though, you would start to feel that this is the one where they maybe beat somebody 49-6 kind of thing. That they're turning the corner with the passing game. Jeremiah Smith looks like Jeremiah Smith again. And the Buckeyes have turned the corner, and they're off to the races towards a Big Ten championship, or competing with either the team up north or the team out northwest for the title.
I was going to say, that team in the northwest right now is looking pretty fierce. Mason, let's do Terps in the NFL and then get over to Wayne. Really fast. Spencer Anderson, 19 offensive snaps, 5 special teams, better than last week in a win.
A huge shout out from Aaron Rodgers in the post game, too.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, good for him, man. Deontay Banks played his best game in a while, Mason.
Yeah, I mean, he got the interception that was called back, but he adds 3 tackles, gets a big pass breakup to him down the stretch. And look, the Chargers, they were bad, and the Giants just happened to be better. Bo Braid, speaking of that game, he gets a DNP for the second straight week. Corey Bullock out in the struggling Ravens. A couple special team snaps for him. And Jordan, I think my Terp of the week, my man Nick Cross, is just flying under the radar, but being completely real, he's like an all-pro type season right now.
Yeah, he has been for a resurgent Colts team. 14 tackles, records a career high. Speaking of career days, maybe not quite career, but Stephon Diggs has his best game in almost 2 full years for 6 catches, 101 yards, as the Patriots have their best game in a couple of years as well.
Yeah, the Panthers team, man, tale of 2 weeks there. Classic NFL, 30-0 one week and he absolutely housed the next. Ty Felton, Jordan, not getting much on offense, but he's constantly the special teams guy. They kind of start off with Maryland, started to pop on the kick returns. I'm thinking the Ty's just going to get his feet under him here, and by midseason, you're going to start to see him pop on offense.
So what do you got to hope for at this point for the man? DJ Glaze records his 4th straight game starting right tackle for the Raiders. Mason, you said it, very well when we were watching the game. He might be average, but he's the best player in that offensive line.
Yeah, that offensive line, again, miserable performance, tough loss for the Raiders. Moving on to the other side of that game, Ruben Hipple at career high of 3 tackles, 8 snaps on defense, 19 on special teams. He's got to watch. I think he's going to hang around a long time in this league playing specials. Ty Johnson, only 1 carry, no yards for Buffalo in their win over New Orleans, but that guy, blowout win, they're going to kind of rest him in that. Continuing on with our Chicago Bears, DJ Moore, 4 catches, 38 yards. Slow start to the year for DJ Moore.
Yeah, he's seems to be struggling to find the field, or not find the field, but find the ball. Roma Duzé is having maybe best season for any receiver this year, and that's definitely taken away from DJ Moore, but hopefully it works out for him there. Chigakonkwo, speaking of receivers, I didn't have a great day. Only 1 reception for my man. Might be getting cut from the fantasy team soon, Mason.
Jordan, Cam Ward said it best. We're ass right now, in short. Sam Okwanu, 3 tackles, 45 snaps for him, 66% of defensive snaps. Huge hole opened up for Sammy O. We talked about it last week, and he continues to get playing time. Another guy that's starting to capture reps is Jordan Phillips. He gets 20 snaps for the Dolphins as they finally break through into the win column. And back over to Thursday night, Jordan, Chad Ryland.
Yeah, Chad Ryland, 2 of 2 on field goals. I believe 3 of 3 on extra points. He hit 1 field goal, Mason. I don't recall the actual distance, but 56, something like that, yards late in the game. He had a good game, which is good to see. He had struggled a little bit early in the season, but a lot of kickers have this season.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Darnell Savage back onto the list with the Commanders. He plays 9 snaps, gets 1 tackle. If this guy can contribute, he's going to get playing time. I'll put it that way. I'll skip through the rest of it. Tarheeb still picks up 3 tackles, plays every single defensive snap. Dante Trader, 2 tackles, 15% of defensive snaps. He also gets a fumble recovery in the game last night. And wrapping up with Josh Woods for Atlanta. He's still out there on special teams, and he's getting a lot of reps on it.
Yeah, I saw it with the broadcast, Mason. I'm sure you did too, as we watched the Commanders lose to the Falcons. But I did see him, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's our guy. He's still out there.
He's a timeless NFL guy.
Yes, he is. There's always a spot for special teams ace on the roster. And with that, Mason, let's bring in Wayne and talk some hoops.
Now we welcome Wayne onto the pod. Wayne, you got a chance to see the new basketball practice facility over in College Park today. How'd it look there? I believe it's been open now for what, a week, 2 weeks?
It's about 2 weeks. You get a tour of a place that looks like it was made by Under Armour. Anybody who's familiar with the original Under Armour store designs, a lot of dark colors and glass, and it looks very modern, but you can see the Under Armour influence in the construction. Of course, the basketball court looks great. The locker rooms are considerably better than what they had at Xfinity Center. I even got a chance to walk down the tunnel. Now, this is just focused on basketball. Everybody else still practices in that little gym, volleyball, the cheerleading, the dance team. So basketball doesn't have to worry anymore about practice times, about having to share the gym. So Brenda Fries was very happy. I talked to Sailor Poffenberger. Diggy Coit From the men's side, he's a point guard that came over from Kansas. He got to do the men's side of the story. Just a bunch of happy people. They love it.
So, Wayne, talk to the viewers who don't know. Talk about the facilities actually in this new building. What stuff is in there for the players?
Well, obviously, a basketball court. I got a chance to look at the basketball offices. They're absolutely first-class corporate look, new furniture. Of course, a lot of TVs up. Really, really great look. The women have their, I don't know if it's 8 or 10 conference championship trophies on display, and their national championship trophy, and just a lot of the memorabilia that they have. There's a wall that shows all of the pro Terps, both on the men's and women's side. And then you get into the locker rooms. If you've seen possibly the video of the football side where the actual lockers were open, the chairs are great, the closets are great, a lot of connected Wi-Fi, once again, a lot of monitors, a lot of ability to do film study. There's study halls, there's the hot tubs and the cold tubs and the trainers' tables, and there's a place for the kids to eat. There's a place for them to hang out. It might be the greatest combination of a YMCA and a dorm you've ever seen in your life.
So, excuse me. One thing that I got the chance to see, and our viewers will get the chance to see on the Wayne Terp YouTube channel, is the walk underneath the, I guess, what's between there? The parking lot? Whatever the case, underground from the locker room to Xfinity. Was that cool? Just talked about going through the tunnel.
I like the tunnel. The tunnel goes from, if you're looking at the practice facility from the parking lot, sort of the right side that's closest to Xfinity Center, it goes under that huge stack of steps that's right in front of Xfinity Center and into the hallway where the weight room used to be under the stands and right next to the court. And sure, that'll be up here on the YouTube channel. It's a cool tunnel. Once again, it's sort of gray and white and a dark gray and a lot of Maryland logos. And it's a 2-minute walk from the edge of the practice facility down the tunnel into the hallway. How Maryland is going to handle that during the season is that they will use the locker rooms in Xfinity Center for halftime because they feel that losing 2 or 3 minutes to get over to the new practice facility is too much. So they'll get dressed, they'll get ready in the new building, they'll walk down the tunnel, they'll go onto the court, halftime in Xfinity Center, and then after the game, back to the new practice facility.
Well, my last question on this topic, unless you got anything else, Mason, would be, I know you talked to a couple people that were there, Brenda, Sailor Poffenberger, I'm blanking on the kid's name, the new point guard from Kansas. Any highlights talking to those guys?
Say again?
Any highlights talking to them?
Just what you'd expect, because you're asking pretty much, do you like this building? And the resounding answer is yes. I think Brenda would tell you it took too long to get here. I think the Maryland fan perspective, because we heard this about Jones Hill House, is what is the impact on recruiting on this team having a $50 million practice facility? And for Maryland, it just evens the playing field. I believe they were the last major university to not have their own practice facility. So you ask Diggy Coit, and you say, how does this compare to Kansas? And he says it compares very favorably. Yes, Sailor Poffenberger, who's been to some other stops along the way, how does this compare? And she said she went from a place that had this kind of facility to a place that didn't, and now it does. So for her, it's really cool. One of the things about the men's side is I believe there's one walk-on that stayed on the team. Everybody else is new. So it's hard to get a reaction from the basketball players on the guys' side because they weren't here before. So it's a little bit of a strange dynamic. I think the big question at the end is this worth it? And I think you had to have this to compete on an even level. If you listen to Diggy, he actually said he committed before he knew this was built. So it didn't have a whole lot of effect on him. But if you're a Maryland fan and you like Under Armour and you like the Terps, you're going to love this place.
Yeah, and I think to cut into your point, like Brenda is really the only one of the few people involved that really can relate to it. I mean, Buzz just showed up. His whole staff just showed up. They have one holdover player. Everybody else is so in and out that it's kind of strange at this point. Jordan, maybe you know something about this. They let coaches have such an impact on building these buildings while they're building them, and like Kevin Willard is gone. So to me, it's Brenda's probably one of the few people, even the administration. They didn't even really build this building, but they're really involved with rolling it out and figuring out maintaining it, all that stuff. But it's really strange. There's few holdover people that can really relate to what it was like before.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mason.
Well,
One
Mason,
person I was thinking. Go ahead, Wade.
it's strange because from the time I've been, say, 8, 9 years old until today, if you had gone to an event like this over the last almost 50 years and seen the player that they brought out, I would know who that is. Absolutely would know that guy. And it's just really strange having the player who's representing the entire team be somebody that I'm seeing for the first time. I'm sure I've seen him play because I've watched Kansas. It just didn't ring a bell. So I'm meeting a new person who represents the entire team. Just a little bit of a strange day.
I'm sure, but what I was going to say on that note was a person who actually might have opinions on this is Seth Allen.
He's back.
He's back, and he was playing here when they didn't have the facility.
Yeah, what year was that?
I want to say 2011 to 2014 he was here, something like that. But plenty of time talking about basketball later on. The Terps have a huge football game this weekend against the Washington Huskies, who are coming off a big performance we're calling against Ohio State. Mason and I talked about earlier. Wayne, I mean, you've been down this road before. The Terps are almost there. They got one more game to really build the hype up. We're here again. Is it different this time?
I hope it is, because we have been here before. And I talked to Loxley today, and it was brought up that after the bye week, it's not that great a record. Unfortunately, it's 0-9, because even though he hasn't been here that long, there have been seasons where there's been more than one bye, and unfortunately lost every one of those. So he didn't really come out and say it's going to be different. He said everything but exactly that. Look, this is a big game. Washington just played Ohio State. They're a little beat up. Hopefully with these new coaches, and I'm sure you talked about that, it's a little different routine in College Park with Pep Hamilton and with Ted on the defensive side. I hope they overcome this. How many tickets did they say were left?
Yeah, 5,000 is what Joe told us here earlier in the show. I'm looking at this for break it down to the facts, and everybody is so. You talk about the turnover. You're playing against a team that's built kind of through the portal, rebuilt in year 2 of kind of a rebuild or retooling of a program in Washington. And you look at what Maryland does with the 60 new guys, and it's hard to find the similarities if you look at the scheme. I was able to spend this week and kind of go back through the Wisconsin game, get some of the different angles that were out there from some of the highlights that were shot and some different pieces of that. And you watch Washington play last week, and this just shows you kind of where college football is at. Maryland recruited a guy from Iowa Central Community College about 3 years ago named Maximus McCree. He played, I think, a handful of games when he was at Maryland. There's a good chance that he's going to start at left tackle for Washington because he's the backup after going back to community college, coming back into the FBS. He lands at Washington. So I don't really see the talent gap. If you look at the film, you're looking at a scheme where Zahir Mathis and Sidney Stewart are going to kind of have to play flat to the line of scrimmage, control, contain. And look, I think this is the game where the guy that we've looked for, Wayne, the entire season, Mike Harris, has the opportunity to come in and play quarterback spy because of his ability to move laterally against a Washington team that, when Ohio State kept the quarterback in the pocket, they couldn't move the ball. If you can stop the run and keep the quarterback in the pocket, you can, and I think will win this game. Avoid the mistakes, keep it low scoring, play our game. But do you think the aggression of Maryland's scheme and the youth of some of these guys will be a disadvantage to them in this game?
For me, if you bring in a Michael Harris, and the one word when you bring him up is that guy hits. He is an impact player. They have so many sudden impact, aggressive players, more than I've seen in years, with Messiah Delhomme, with Daniel Wingate, with Harris, with Reddick. Those guys, not just the defensive line, but the guys behind them really hit. Can you use misdirection? Can you try and use that against Maryland? I'm sure that you can. Maryland's athleticism so far is off the charts. Let's see if it translates. Washington, it's a long trip for Washington. If they don't play well, they have a lot of excuses. Just played Ohio State, this huge long trip. Maryland probably not that interesting of a foe. I think they have Maryland, Rutgers, and then they have Michigan. So this is sort of their downtime in the season. If you can beat them, Saturday's a good time to do that. Maybe we can change this. So there'll be about 48,000 tickets have been sold. It's a big chance to make an impression.
The attendance of the stadium, the total attendance is 46,183 now.
That's the total capacity now.
Yes, that is the capacity now.
Wow. So they took some seats out and made some things wider. Well, this is the type of game that you would hope if they get to play it again. Nebraska, the next week, if Maryland wins, you'll see some bleachers put up on the concourse, but you got to win this game. The uptick on our YouTube channel, the uptick across Maryland media because they went to Wisconsin and won is a serious reflection that the fan base is ready to win. They'll come out. I was on the air with Kevin Sheehan earlier today and talking about this season, said if you win one or two of these games between Saturday and Washington, then you have Nebraska, then you're at UCLA, there's a couple winnable games and it gets really hard again. That would make a good season. And Sheehan immediately blows that off that 6 or 7 games, it's not enough. This team has the ability, has the talent to really make an impact this year. I hope he's right.
Going back to the scheme, there's kind of 3 guys that I look at in the room in terms of coaches. Obviously, Ted Monachino and what he's brought into it and his focus on linebackers. Jermaine Carter Jr., who's on the staff now as an assistant linebackers coach, and then Corey Luget, who was an NFL somewhat standout, kind of consistent guy through the league. What do you think the message is in terms of a team that's going to try and give you aggression, misdirection looks, where guys get beyond the play or they get even with a play that's a counter trap or that's a rollout play and they're the unblocked guy on the edge? Do you think they spend a lot of time kind of focusing on that just to not, kind of take the bait if you look at the way Washington plays? And then the second piece of that is you look at Jonah Coleman, the running back for Washington, arguably the best running back in the Big Ten. I think so. If you look at every game up to Ohio State, he's dominated the game. He gets, 15 to 30 touches a game, but he's not a lateral quickness running back. But how do you balance the scheme? Is it like a Cam Rice and Ian Thomas in the middle and just the normal look, or what do you kind of see from the scheme perspective?
I think you do what you do, but you really have to say you've got to play in your lane. You don't do things you can't do. This isn't a chance to go be spectacular. You have to be solid. Loxley today said this is a heavy-handed running back, which is another way to say what you just said. He's out looking to run away from you. He might try to run you over. And I think it's a really good test of if this is a Big Ten defensive line. They flew around against Wisconsin. They cut off the run game, but Wisconsin didn't have the quarterback they wanted in that game. So that one's a bit of an aberration, but usually Maryland would still have found a way to lose that game in the past. So it is a step up that game was won. You just tell them this is just football. You have the talent to do this. Don't overreact. There have been about 0 late hit penalties. Yeah, Trey Reddick got a couple last week, but outside of that, there have been very few offensive penalties. Guys are just doing what they're supposed to do. Loxley keeps bringing up what you said, which is that it's basically a new team, and these guys only know what they've seen so far. This isn't a rebuild of a Maryland team. This is a complete refresh. So I would say that, yeah, you make some emphasis on the fact you just have to do your job. You have to be in the spot you're supposed to be in and trust that the other guy will be there. You've talked about this in lacrosse defense, that you can't cover two guys. You just got to cover the guy you're supposed to cover. Same principle applies here.
Well, what I was going to say earlier was, and I'll direct this to both of you, but we can start with Mason, is we all kind of watched that Ohio State Washington game together, and we all kind of agreed that Washington held up in the trenches fairly well against Ohio State, actually. It is, to me, a given we will not be able to run the ball in this game. So how do you figure out how to move the ball, and do you think the defense can hold up to frankly, be a superior running attack? At least we think so.
So, yeah, I look at Maryland's run scheme, and I look at it as one that I'm sold on getting 3 yards at this point. You know, part of being a coach or really doing anything is being kind of realistic with their goal setting. I feel like they now teach that probably starting in elementary school, is being realistic with goal setting. Our goal setting has to be, we need to run enough that you think that if you empty it out and you put your speed rush package on the field, that we can run the ball straight up your gut and give you 5, 6, 7 yards. So it's enough for me to keep my defensive and nose tackle in the game on third and manageable, but it's not enough. Like, DeJuan Williams ain't running the ball 40 yards at a touch. We haven't seen it, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see it until you guys make the trip out to Pasadena and we play a really, really bad football team, or eventually Nolan Ray will break one because he's Nolan Ray, and that's what he can do every 50th carry. I think for Maryland, I want to start to slide the pocket a little bit, get out towards the edges, but at the same time, and I'll throw it back to Wayne with this, from a scheme perspective, you have the joy of having a quarterback. You don't have to move him. If he can stand in the pocket, he can make any throw on the field. He can make it accurately when he's on platform. When he gets off platform, it's got to be your concern. But with Washington's edge rushers being dinged up, a team that's stacking injuries at corner, and at their best pass rusher potentially out for the season now, I think Malik's going to be able to move the ball. It's just going to be if these wide receivers can continue to make plays and catch the football, because eventually they're going to knock one of these balls up in the air. It's going to be picked off for a touchdown. It's going to cost us. Yeah. And that is mere fact of the way we're handling some of these short passes.
Mike spoke on this, and I hope he has his stats right. He said there's 2 games where there are no drop passes, and then there's Wisconsin and the first game where there were drop passes. And he's got these guys out there with the jugs gun. They're making extra catches. They just have trouble looking the ball into their hands and completing the catch. It's all on the wide receivers. And we see that. You saw that at Wisconsin. The great strength with Malik is you don't have to move him. You cannot defensively hide people. Not everybody in this game is at a pro level. So when you play boundary and field, boundary being the short side, field the wide side, most of the time you can hide people, because in order to make a deep throw to the wide side of the field, the quarterback often has to move. And it gives you time to readjust as a defense, because if the quarterback's running that way and he's going to throw that way, you have a head start. Not with Malik, because Malik can drop straight back and still make that throw. It's really hard to hide your weaker defenders. And that's one of the reasons that this guy is called a pro-level quarterback, because he can make you pay. It's a much quicker pass game. It gives him more time to actually survey the field because he doesn't have to run around. The offensive line knows where he's going to be. It helps the pass blocking. Maryland's only been sacked twice this year. One of them, I swear he must have had the ball 6 seconds at Wisconsin. He finally got sacked. It's really hard. That's why pro quarterbacks are so good in college. It's really hard to defend this guy. And it's not because he's going to run away from you. It's because you actually have to play pass defense for 3.5, 4.5 seconds. That's almost impossible. So I think his numbers are actually going to get better. The other thing Mike brought up is Pep just slowed the tempo down. Mike wants to run 80 plays. Pep wants to run 60 plays. Mike's starting to like that because it means the offense is on the field more. Even when they're not successful, they're eating up enough time the defense gets to rest. One note on the defensive side, from what Mike said today, D.D. Holmes is probably going to be eligible to play. When he drove his car into the side of into the side of a bar in College Park the other day, I wrote, we'll see if we're actually a football school. If you're a football school, you find a way for that kid to play. It looks like he is going to be on the field on Saturday.
And before we get to predictions, Wayne, the 1985 Maryland Terrapins will be celebrated on Saturday. What does that team mean to you and to see them back in College Park?
I believe, if memory serves me correctly, they lost 3 games. First game against Penn State was an all-time classic. They lose later in the year to Miami, and they lost, I believe, at Michigan. That was just a great team from memories and years gone by. They really represented what this could be. That's one of the years where the place was packed and there were just so many big games. Look, that's a heartstring moment for me. Those guys were really special to me. By the way, the last time Maryland played Washington, they played in the Aloha Bowl or the Hula Bowl. I think it was the Aloha Bowl in Honolulu all the way back in 1981. Unfortunately, Maryland lost that one 21-20. Jess Atkinson missed an extra point. I believe it's the only one he missed in his Maryland career. So that's my trip into memories past.
And then another trip into memories past will go around the horn, CQ Stadium, Bird Stadium, Maryland Stadium, Chevy Chase Bank Field, whatever you want to call it. Turned 75 today. Favorite memories of the Terps home field?
Well, I'll go first on this one because I will give you 2. Excuse me. The first one was my first season going on the Maryland games. I was 8 years old, and Maryland beat Florida State in the blackout game. And I believe the Terps stormed the field. That was the Champ Sports Bowl year, for those who remember. And my second one, which I remember more so for the call that Wayne did than the actual play, is the debut of the Pride jerseys. When Maryland played Miami on Monday night, Labor Day, and Cam Chisholm picked off, I believe, Ja'Cory Harris to win the game. That is still one of our most viewed Terp Talk YouTube videos of all time.
Okay, that is a classic. It's sort of weird. You think about this place, and I've seen so many bad games that honestly stick out more in my head more than the good ones. That it's strange. I will say it was a loss, but Maryland played Florida State the first year that I really remember. Not the first year I remember going to the games, but the first year that Maryland kind of got on a roll when Danny O'Brien was the quarterback. And they kind of had an outside shot at the ACC championship at that point, or making the championship game. They lose that game. It was a true, actual sellout Saturday Night Football ABC game. That's one that sticks out in my head. And then, honestly, some of the ugly ones. Like, I remember there was a game that we went to. They played Virginia Tech at home one year where they were 2-10, and it got to be like, I don't know, it felt like 100-0, but it was probably like 45-14. And Jordan and I were like, Dad, we want to leave. And you were like, no, we're staying till the end of the game.
Well, yeah, I'm a little crazy about this stuff. So, yeah.
And the other one that's kind of similar to that is, and I hate to go take it the bad way, but it's sort of just like, I guess it shows in 20 some odd years now of going to these games, what the quality of game has been. The Boston College, what we jokingly call the nuclear bomb game.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other one is that game they lost to Temple when Randy Edsall was the coach. And that might be one of the only games. We stayed in the parking lot till the end of the game, but we actually left the gate. It was like 30-3, and we were all just like, our whole like old Terp Talk, the OG crew was all there, and we had just had it. We went into the parking lot and played football, and I think they finally scored, and you could hear the cannon go off from all the way out past Ludwig where we were parking at the time, and it was like, oh my God, we actually scored. But yeah, on the good side of it though, I will say overall it's a place that means a lot to, I know the three of us, but our family and extended family as a whole. All the games we've been to there, it really sticks out as just a core memory, time and time again, good or bad, of just us being in a place together and being able to root for this team and continue to kind of build Terp Talk and do what we do now here on the podcast. And it's sort of weird. I was thinking about this earlier today. Like, if they win this game on Saturday in some crazy way, I would rather be sitting in our row in 206 than being on the field. Like last year when they beat USC, Jordan had like head for the exits, and then the game kind of turned, and he ended up like running into Bruce outside the student section and watching it from there. But when they won that game and they stormed the field, I was like disappointed that I was on the field and not really sitting more with you guys, but sitting like also in a place where I kind of feel like I've waited for them to win games like that for so long, sitting in that first row under the overhang in 206, that it's just like it means a lot. And I feel like when we talked to Joe LaBue earlier, he was talking about fans of Maryland that are like that. And I know we certainly got three of them plus Connie, so the four of us definitely count in that bucket.
That's true. So a couple of notes. Jeremy Navarre blocked that field goal to seal Jordan's signature.
I didn't want to say it and be wrong, though.
All right. Bernard Pierce, I believe, was a tailback that ruined our afternoon against Temple. I think
a lot more than that ruined our afternoon. But yeah, he was definitely ran through.
He was. So mine, and that's what actually started us on Terp Talk, was winning a contest so many years ago, a silent auction, to go watch Terp Talk in the studio. And it's the first time we worked with Bruce. He said we'd be on for 2 minutes, tell him who you are and why you're here. And after I did that, he said, it's the first week of Maryland football. What's your favorite Maryland memory? I don't know if you call it favorite, but it's up there the most memorable, was that game that started the 1985 season when Maryland was ranked number 1 on the Sporting News. And they played Penn State, and it was about 104 degrees out there. And Stan Gelbaugh threw an interception on the first offensive play, and Maryland struggled to get back into that game. Ramon Paredes, who lasted about 8 weeks as the Maryland kicker, was very shaky. He missed an extra point, and then because he missed one, Maryland goes for 2 the next time they score a touchdown. They don't get it. They're trailing 20-18. And here come the Terrapins as the clock winds down. They're going to win this game. They're finally going to beat Penn State, and they're going to be number 1 in the country. And I guess everybody who's watched long enough knows that Tommy Neal fumbled about the 7-yard line as the clock expired. But that was the closest we've come to full glory that I've been there. The one where we won was we beat Clemson in 2001 and ended up going to the Orange Bowl. And that was a hell of a night. And I think if we can pull this off against Washington, it's going to set up some games like that. Mason, I know we're at the wrap up, but you said when we were in Wisconsin that this game on Saturday could be the biggest game in the Loxley era. So one of those, I'll ask you and then I'll hang up. But why did you say that?
I think it's the whole thing is at a tipping point. And it almost feels like, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy last year. And they went out and they bet the house on a bunch of guys they found with like an idea. They reinvested in the incubator, if you want to call it that, into this movement, into these guys. And I think they may have either by luck, but as I've said to Jordan a couple times, I'm not sure if I've said it on here, Michael Loxley may have messed up scouting players once in his career, and that may have been going into last year and the guys he pulled together. In the end, he identifies talent, he finds guys, he puts them on the field. They're young, and I think he said it in a preseason video he put out there. They're scary because they don't know what they're walking into. And when you play with no fear, you can accomplish everything. That's the group that I look at. You watch the way they play. They're not afraid of anybody. They haven't been punched in the face yet. In fact, they delivered the punches to the face. So eventually one day someone's going to smack them in the mouth and you'll see how they'll get up. I think that day's Saturday. That's what defines it. If you can get a program on a roll with the fan base that Maryland does actually possess, you can build a special environment and put together some wins with the teams that are on the schedule. And that's what I just see happening. I think the Terps look at the film. They emulate what the Buckeyes were able to do on defense. The defensive backfield's for real. Glassner's, by all means, definitely going to be out there on Saturday. I think Maryland limits what Damone Williams is able to do, what Boston's able to do as a wide receiver. Not much for the Huskies past the top 2 guys. I think Maryland locks them down. Give me the Terps 38-20.
Wow. All right. Wayne, before you go, give us your prediction for the game.
Oh, it's a tough one, and it's a touch or go. And then you see Malik drive this team down the field and win this game. I talked about which quarterback was going to do it. I think it's Malik's turn to actually make good on everybody saying he's the freshman of the year in all of college football, a third of the way through the season. He's going to prove it on Saturday. Terps come back to win this one. Go 27-25.
Well, I'll close it out then. And I forgot about this. We were talking about Greatest Maryland Stadium moments, which is one thing when I was in the college athletics world that we always talked about that I didn't really ever get to happen, unfortunately. Maybe I will. Who knows? But I never got to come back here for a game of my own. But I kind of did. And Wayne was there. Temple women's soccer played at Maryland to open their season in 2021. And after that game ended, we drove the team bus from Ludwig to was formerly, I don't know if it's still called the team house, Gossett Team House.
Yeah.
And I snuck out with another SID around the building to walk on the field, and the lights were on at night. And it was just me standing on the turf with no one else in the stadium. And it was a very surreal moment for me because I was like, I made it back here as a professional. I achieved one of my goals in this profession. And it was really cool. And I got to think about all the Maryland moments we had there when I was just standing there by myself. So with that in mind, as a pessimistic Maryland fan, I will go with my gut on this one. I will say the Terps win 30-24, and we finally get the next win. And I've been wrong before. I'm hoping this time is the time because I really do believe what we have going on here is different. It seems like the energy has shifted, and we're going to find that for real on Saturday.
Yes, we will. We'll have all the coverage over on YouTube, post-game, then back here on the podcast to break it all down. Wherever you get this show, make sure you subscribe to it. Give it a thumbs up where you can. It really helps us out. Go Terps. Beat Washington.